Greetings and welcome to the Pure Report. I'm your host, Rob Ludeman. It is time to bring the orange. And I am thrilled to welcome back into studio Mr. Chadd Kenney, VP of Product Management. It is so cool that you're in the building. I can just call on you and get you in here anytime I want to.
Oh, this is my favorite. Yeah, let's do it all the time.
It's a break from your normal busy kinds of duties.
Yeah.
It's great to have you back in. We did some cool stuff in and around launch last year. You've got great history here, so it's always fun to get you in because we get some good stories. What's going on on the home front? You were just talking to me pre-record about putting in a new fake lawn in place of a real lawn. How does that work?
We did the backyard, so I've got three daughters, 13, 9, and 3, and so we have a grass in the backyard. It's artificial, so cleaning it is challenging, but. Kids are doing great. Badminton is the new thing I've picked up with my middle daughter.
Badminton in the yard?
Yes.
We're
also part of a club. It's a lot of fun to play out there.
Okay, well, not pickleball because everybody else is doing that.
Badminton's actually a pretty interesting sport.
Yeah?
So she is like vicious, amazing at her age, 9 years old. She plays like a lot of the people in the club, and they just laugh at how much they have to run around trying to chase the birdie that she's throwing at her. But yeah, that's good. Life's good. Yeah.
You can hit that thing pretty hard too, right?
Yes.
I mean, and you kind of have to.
You do.
Because if you don't connect, it doesn't really go anywhere.
Oh, and there's like this magical touch where you hit like a short shot and it just goes right over the net, and you force the person to like dive for it. It's great.
Well, it's because she's got a future in that, because we've got badminton teams in the high school level as well. So that's something to.
It's a great workout too.
Keep working on. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
That is awesome. How are things going here? Early Pure. 2026, early 2026.
It's going great. We've got we pretty much redid the entire family with all net new hardware last year, which was killer. So we're spending a lot of time on Fusion, of course, and getting the platform fully solidified, starting to show massive value to customers around compliance and other fun stuff. But excited to really bring out all the innovation this year. It's another big year of innovation, just like last year. And this one will be, software heavy in comparison to where we were last year. We
kind of don't ever really slow down. It's not like there's that break. We kind of alternate between this is a big hardware year, this is a big software year, which is really good, right? That there's continuing innovation, and certainly the amount that we spend on R&D is significant to drive that.
In fact, I was looking at a metric. I think we put 2 features out per week last year. The amount of stuff we put out was pretty spectacular. And customers are consuming it and adopting it, which has been another big win for us over the last couple of years, is just really starting to see more and more people take advantage of the great innovation that we've been putting out there.
Anything stood out on the Fusion front since you mentioned it, and maybe up-leveling a little to workload automation? Like, have you heard anything anecdotally from customers where they're like, we turned this on, we connected our fleet, and check out this is what I love what our customers do when they show us cool stuff that we didn't even think about that they could do. Is there anything that?
So first off, customers absolutely love like the model of being able to fuse systems together, manage them all holistically. One thing happened that actually customers finally upgraded to that they didn't ever believe they'd see. So FlashArray and FlashBlade were, part of Pure, different products, right? And so we just came out with file presets. It's the first time you can manage a FlashBlade from a FlashArray or FlashArray really cool. from a FlashBlade. And they're like, I thought I'd never see the day. And of course, you can do it all through Pure One and everything. But this actually being able to like build a file system on either is a pretty killer model finally to see just the fruition of that. And you'll see that in Object later down the line. But excited to see people start to adopt it very, very widespread. Presets are getting, solidified around the various different protocols, and we have a bunch of cool stuff I won't talk about later in the year in Fusion, but excited heavily about both the Enterprise Data Cloud as well as, Fusion, the enabler of it.
We're at a fun point with a number of things, right? I would say Fusion is in that bucket. The Nutanix relationship is in that bucket. A number of the things that are going on with Portworx, where we have this really strong foundation, right? The solution as built, as it is right now, super cool, super usable. But then as I keep talking to more and more people, both in here and in the hallways, it's like all these really cool things that are still coming. And customers are asking about it, right? I had Porman in recently, and we were going through the Ask Us Everything cool questions from that webinar series we're doing for community. And a lot of the questions were forward-leading to things that we're kind of already working on. It's really a fun time right now. It's a great
It is. I think customers are looking for options, and we're creating a bunch of integrations as well as ways to help accelerate them to adopt new things. And I'm very excited about it. I feel like customers have in VMware, we got to a good critical mass of integrations and the like, but people are looking for new stuff, and it's fun to innovate in this space.
It is. Well, and it's Go season, so you didn't escape main stage there. So I'll be seeing you at that. This will release after we are back from the dust settling from SCO, and then we're already out with Accelerate for everybody. So Accelerate registration is out there, and Call for Topics is out there. I think by the time I publish this, we'll probably be done with Call for Topics, but still would love to see people register, and we're trying to feature customers in our breakout program.
Love it.
As much as possible this year, which is cool. I brought you in today because I wanted to hit a topic we have touched on before, and you've been around, so you've dealt with it, but really looking at the meaning of enterprise ready, and people can talk about reliability related to that or uptime related to that. We've both been around. We both know kind of the FUD that gets tossed around relative to the products, but it still is a real problem. There's a lot of trendy things that are out there. I wanted to hit a quick stat, because one thing that we know is that downtime is still expensive and getting more expensive. So cost of downtime, 2025 pulled a stat that 90% of firms reported costs exceeding $300,000 per hour.
Wow.
And again, companies are of different sizes. And 41% facing 1 million to 5 million hourly losses. The cause of downtime, it kind of hasn't changed, right? There's still like 85% that it says is security issues, followed by oopses, followed by
I thought that
the
would
inevitable,
be leading, actually.
Right? Yeah, followed by the human error.
Yeah.
But then hardware errors also factor in. I think it's interesting. If you went back 25 years, we'd probably talk more about the hardware failures along with the human, and maybe a little bit on the security. It's evolved over time.
It has, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. What's your take? We both have been in this industry for a while. So your perspective on what's changed, or maybe what's the same. I don't know. It could be either place relative to this whole uptime reliability thing.
Yeah. So obviously hardware fails less than it did back in the day.
Yeah.
I think there's been more controls put in place for humans to not screw up, although they tend to happen even still on a relatively frequent basis. I'd say the other one is like, security is still, while, zero trust has been put in place and more security has been embedded. I think the bad guys continue to find new mechanisms to get in. And so, like the model these days are just trying to find every possible layer that you can solve this challenge on to really alleviate this. So it's not a shocker that security issues actually are probably number one, although human error tends to probably be a pretty big one still.
Do you guys still measure bathtub curves? Is that still a thing? Or am I dating myself too? No, I just, on the reliability side, right? Yeah. We had a whole, you have that whole curve where things fail early and then level out. And then as they get old, when I was in my chip business days, that was like a thing. I'm sure there's those reliability models. I just don't know if they call it that anymore.
It's on hardware for sure.
Sure, for hardware. Yeah.
Yep.
Although we've had the rise of software to take advantage and alleviate many of those things, right? And certainly in our case with the proactive support that we've done really well. Did you have any early stories on the proactive support, showing up at customer sites where we're fixing things before anything goes wrong?
Customers are always a bit shocked at the fact that we open up tickets ahead of issues occurring. And when you explain to them the model of like how it actually came about, they're always like, wow, how did you guys think of that thing? And what was interesting, like early days, is you could see a series of events that happened before some sort of outage occurred. And so I guess you make a choice as a vendor of whether you just let that occur and then take action once it happens, or you kind of see these things occurring and you proactively go and do something about it. What was interesting in the market early days was most people didn't have telemetry sent to them, so they had no idea. So the same issue occurred consistently all over the place, and the natural reaction for those vendors were, send me your log so that we can diagnose what it was, because they didn't even know what it was quite yet. in most cases, we already have the logs. We already know what the problem is. So if you were to call and we didn't predict it, which is typically pretty unheard of for us, we have a pretty good idea of what the resolution is going to be anyways. But so we created these things called fingerprints early days, and it would allow us to be able to see the progression of these issues. And so, if let's say it's 10 steps, maybe in step 4, we just open up a ticket and say, hey, we're going to come out and resolve this thing for you. Customers would be like, how do you know it's happened? And we're like, oh, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
They're like, what? And then we fixed it, and they would be kind of shocked. I had one customer even tell me, like, are you just making this up to make it sound like your system's more intelligent? Like, no, like there's a legitimate reason. But that type of predictive technology is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's the benefit of all that telemetry, and customers have said this on many pods in the past, like trusting us with that really critical machine and log data to the point where you call up our support person, they're able to go access that if you are connected to us and take a look into that. And I think there was a crazy stat that we maybe still have it, where 70 or 75% of our support calls are things that have not happened, right? That we're proactively coming in to fix.
Yeah, it's the other side that I'd say that's interesting is like when you look at enterprise reliability, as we're talking about today, if you think about it, you can be as reliable, but if you have the same issue occur all over the place that causes an outage, that is not enterprise ready in my mindset. You should have a support infrastructure that can predict issues before they occur, especially on ones that have been recurring consistently. That seems table stakes and still doesn't exist for most folks today.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It goes back to the old RAS, right? Remember RAS? I went back to RAS with my old server, like reliability, availability, serviceability. I'll define it for folks that are under the age of 40, but it was something that we used to focus on because they were different aspects. The reliability, how robust is it staying up? Availability, is it online? Is it working? Serviceability, okay, when something happens or you need to fix something, can you fix it while it's running? And we've done that pretty much from the start. I mean, that's the serviceability we've always done well with Evergreen. Yeah. It's a huge one. Where are we relative to, I'm going to try to do this around the math, right? Yeah. The reason the hardware systems used to go down is because there were so many moving parts. Yep. And so I look at maybe one of our competitors, big giant, platforms. Yeah. And look at what we build. Are we at a point now where mathematically there's a hardware failure limitation just because we're using fewer things compared to the competition or compared to what we built before? Fair statement?
Yeah, so there's a couple of parts and pieces to this that probably most people don't rationalize in the system. So first off, we don't use SSDs. I think most people are aware of that, right? And inside of an SSD, there's quite a few components, especially in the world of supply chain challenges. This becomes actually a pretty interesting discussion. But inside that device, there's a bunch of components that can and in many cases do fail. You have CPUs that need to process. You have memory. You have a flash translation layer that says where the data lands. And it runs its own processes through firmware, like garbage collection and all sorts of other ways to optimize the drive. Well, if you think about that, any one of those things can break. And in many cases, if you look at SSD annualized return rates, they're like in the 2 to 4% range. Or in the later years. When in normal years, it's probably about 1.25% that you typically see. I think Backblaze had, and we're at 0.13 annualized return rate because the drives themselves just have much less components to fail. As you go further up into the stack, the more stateful the hardware is, the more that the hardware failure causes impact. Mm-hmm. And the less stateful, the more the hardware can be swapped out and components can be moved around. And so I think, we built a system that not only builds, removes the state from the hardware, which is an indicator of being able to deliver better resiliency. We've made it so you can swap out hardware componentry without disruption. And our data devices, which tended to be in the past the things that failed the most, actually last a really long period of time. So it makes the system kind of almost like you forget you have it because the reliability is so high on these.
Well, and we have many stories anecdotally of customers running our arrays up and running for not months at a time without an outage, but years at a time and without any outage, right? Yeah. Without any. We had a customer after one of our Ask Us Everything webinars who talked about doing the self-service upgrades in Evergreen. He talked about doing like over 600 of these without disruption, without anything going on.
Yeah, one of my favorite customer meetings are usually, hey, we're expanding further, and they have maybe a big iron system that's out there that's perceivably, very reliable. And they ask us, well, why are you convinced that you can go, replace that? And I will pull up, our internal view of things and show them that for the last 4 years, you've been at 100% reliability. Has that thing? And they're like, no way. And I'm like, well, then my numbers prove it more than I need to even go into the architecture itself because the outcome's there. But I think as people dive into the architecture, then they say, oh, wow, I get now how they're delivering that kind of result.
But it takes a little, and you've talked about this before in other stories you've told, like it takes a little bit of telling them to understand that, like your anecdote on one of our other podcasts where you went in and it was a customer who had never used us and they were with one of our competitors 25 years and they're like, I don't believe you, right? They're like, I don't believe you. How do you actually do that? And even goes down to, like you talked about stateless, it goes down to the controller architecture, right? Being stateless. And I had JD on last year and he talked through how he used to have to do controller swaps and he used to have to make sure that, he managed the data and the ID and everything that needed to move over. You don't have to do that with us. Like that's not a thing.
I was remembering a funny story. I told this the other day where we were at an event. This was pretty early days of Pure. It was actually when we had full controllers. And we happened to have an FA320 and an FA420 series right next to each other. And it was, I think, the happy hour or something like that going on. And the guy said, there's no way in hell you could pull this thing off. And we were running a workload with, a server sitting on top of it. And I'm like, I bet you while we're drinking right now, in the next 30 minutes, I can show you an entire controller upgrade. And he's like, there's no way you could pull that off. And we legitimately in 30 minutes showed a full controller upgrade from the 320 to the 420 series while having drinks on the floor of an event. And they were fully shocked. Like, how do you pull this off? And they couldn't see any disruption in the performance throughout. But I think a lot of times it takes people seeing it to believe it. A lot of times they've heard this, oh, your architecture doesn't have multi-controller, so it must be less resilient. And, I think people are starting to rationalize these days that less components mean less failures. And, there's different ways to scale than just having just a big giant thing with everything on it.
Yeah, or the heat that comes with that as well, right? When you have all those components or the weight, right? There are other different conditions. I want to talk about nines because nines has always been kind of a thing. And a while back, the old standard was 5 nines. 5 nines was pretty good, right? You're 2.5 something minutes, I think, a year. 6 nines is really the goal. I feel like we used to publish that online. Like we used to have the running actual
and our data reduction
number along with our data reduction. But we used to have, or maybe we didn't publish it, but we would go in and talk to potential prospects, and they would come back and go, well, our competitors telling us they get 4 or 5 nines, and they slide the paper in front of us and go, here's how they measure it, and you pick it up and look, and the measurement is semi-theoretical, right? It's just like, well, here's the math. And they would respond with, well, here's Pure 1.
I'll show you.
Here's an array that's running down the street from you at one of your competitors. Here's 6 nines.
Yeah, I think the other funny part too is if you look at a lot of the metrics, they take out upgrades.
Yeah,
because that's like typically where there's a weirder outage thing that plays out that may not be their fault, right? Well, it's because we're doing an upgrade. And they only want to count the ones that are, one's normal operations, which is super cheating, by the way. I mean, all of our numbers include everything, hardware upgrades to, firmware upgrades to anything on the system whatsoever, even during normal failure operations. And so I think, what's funny about these ones is, well, there's the paper certification of stuff. I think customers have come to realize that the architecture itself had been simplified to its essence. Like we actually built things from first principles on the ground up on Flash as it was coming out and didn't have like the legacy burden of carrying all of this old stuff along with it. But then we also were a very software-centric view of the way storage should be actually managed. And that really did change the way resiliency is looked at holistically. You can't almost even compare the two solutions because they're just so different in the way that they operate and the simplicity within the systems. And we don't allow people to do stuff that tend to like get you in trouble, like accidentally deleting a LUN that's around for a while. So I think they are different worlds and they're very apart from each other.
It's interesting. The software first mentality does go to some of those potential human error things, right? When I think about it and coming in here and having people explain, well, no, we do the data reduction this way and we have, we have metadata going this way. And I'm like, well, what about RAID? No, we do like, there's all these things that historical storage engineers had to go solve. And that was the way you solved it at that time. It was fine, but it also required manual intervention, which raised up that potential for human error. And ours has said, look, that stuff's in a black box. I know that's offensive to some of you because you want to come in and pull knobs and push buttons and do things, but we don't need you to do that. Go be a data strategist. And we're also going to improve your resiliency because you're not going to make any mistakes.
Focus on the end outcome, which was really to deliver faster applications, faster virtualized environments. But it was hilarious. Most people early days wanted to be able to manage the RAID groups. I RAID type. I need to know. I can't imagine that you would do this on your own. Or I want to turn off deduper compression because I know which one's needed or not. And when you ask them what data type it was, in most cases they didn't even know. And so I think, the autonomous nature of the system, even from the get-go, where we were optimizing for the way Flash should be written to based on the RAID type that we chose, and didn't allow people to turn things on or off because we actually could make determinations on what was best for how Flash longevity lasted, or what the performance consistency could look like. And so it took customers a long time to get their hands off the wheel. But I think as soon as they saw like they got their weekends back and they didn't have Sev 1s all the time and they weren't dealing with performance issues, they let go of the wheel altogether and said, let's get more of this.
Once they get in, or once they see it, when you go from faith to actually seeing it. It also goes back, and I think we hit this architecturally, or I did it with Jade and Andrew, like remember limited error paths, right? And the one that always stands out is no power button on the array. Oh, well, how do you turn the thing off? Well, there's this plug in the back, and you pull that out. Well, why didn't you build a button for power? Well, that's a whole nother path that could fail, and you already have a path.
And you're not testing the failure mode consistently. Like the one that I actually love the best that we probably never ever talk about is going back to the SAS drives for a quick sec. So SAS drives have their own firmware. They do their own things. They don't like check in with us and say, hey, I'm about to run garbage collection.
They just go off.
Use someone else's drive for a bit. And so we were building lots of software around it. And we started to realize, well, we need to be able to indicate when drives go off and do their own thing. And so we would do tests on reads. Is it faster to read from the drive, or is it faster to rebuild from parity? And if it was a certain distance between the two, we'd start rebuilding from parity for that drive for a period of time while it went off and did its thing. Well, we still do that in the system, which means that we actually test RAID parity rebuilds on like a pretty sizable percentage of read operations, meaning that drive failures are absolutely nothing for us. Not only do we know how the data is laid out, which makes our recovery fast, but we are testing this all the time. So there's no series of, oh, wow, now I got to rebuild a drive and kick off a whole new series of code that's rarely ever used. It's something that's in every operation in the system consistently.
Yeah, that's a good one that you fleshed out, because I don't think we've ever chatted about like that one. Just is table stakes now for how we operate. Staying on the subject of software and going back to when we kind of hit security and cyber, there's a lot we've done in that space, right? I mean, there's a lot of interesting things. We've always had data secure at rest and, FIPS kind of things. We've come a long way, and a lot of this maybe hits more in the digital experience side, but it's really exciting to see not only natively what we're building in security to help with reliability and enterprise ready, but also with some of the partnerships that are out there.
Yeah, there's quite a bit here. I think like the whole layered cyber resiliency thing that we built out, started at the bare minimum, I'd say, for any storage array these days, which is you've got to have a way to protect the data so that users can't screw up and bad guys can't delete data, right? And I'd say that, we had this from the beginning, actually. It was funny. Most customers told me, oh my God, you just saved my job because I accidentally deleted some LUN. And I didn't realize you had this like recycle bin like thing, and you saved my job. I didn't know it's stuck around for 24 hours. I just needed 3 minutes. I realized right after I did it. But that core componentry, if you think about it, is the methodology that we build in the company for reliability, which is we protect users even when human error happens, that we have protection mechanisms. Those protection mechanisms then later down the line became, well, what if we extended them? And what if we didn't allow you to turn it off and it became safe mode? And so now you have a hardened set of capabilities, not only just encryption within the systems and all of the great work that we've done around that with key management and other things to do encryption in flight and at rest, but safe mode also. And then now that we add more integrations into it, now you have capabilities of even having ransomware detection happening on an alternate product and them sending tags to us to say, hey, there's an infection that occurred, like what we built with Rubrik. And what's killer about this is now you can start doing logic statement recoveries where you didn't have the context in order to do so in the past. So you can say, I want to recover the most recent snapshot. Well, that's likely infected. That's not infected, and it gives you the actual snapshot that's most viable. And so these great integrations that we're building both with partners as well as some of the assessments we're building into Pure One has really hardened our cybersecurity stance for sure.
Yeah, and speeding up that time to getting back online, because ultimately that's what it's all about, and that speaks very much to enterprise ready.
Totally, and I think the other thing you talked about at the front end, like what changed in cyber, like people don't recover from backups. They are recovering from snapshots or local recovery that's near instantaneous. You could have the fastest backup appliance ever, and recovery is still faster on a snapshot. Now, there may be a situation where you don't have enough snapshots and you got to go to backup. I get that. Yeah. But if you think about it, you got to have these separate layers of being able to protect yourself.
Yeah, tiered resiliency for sure that our FSAs are fond of talking about. I want to hit on performance. And I know performance these days is kind of table stakes, right? Yeah. We don't talk about it as much as maybe we did 10 years ago. We were contrasting flash to hybrid or flash to disk, just despite some of that being out there. But I think another aspect of enterprise ready is how enterprise workloads are handled, how tier one apps, basically databases running ERP or running supply chain. Certainly if you're offline or down, okay, that's bad. We get that. That's easy to comprehend. But slow and inconsistent also, I would say, is something that doesn't qualify as enterprise ready
100% agree.
From an array.
Yeah, and I think, where you see this, by the way, is where there's contention amongst workloads. And one thing we've done really well is, put QoS policies in place that allow us to be able to set floors and ceilings and various different things. But if you look at these systems, they perform at such a ridiculously high level, and the way that we lay out the data allows us to have really good consistency across many different types of operations. I mean, I think the future of this world, if you think about it, you had silos of data and legacy architectures are kind of built application by application. These things are not built for what this new world is. This new world is, I want to go process live transactional data, have context, and AI agents being able to interrogate, understand, and provide value. These systems are not even capable of running multiple workloads together, let alone trying to drop AI on top of it for processing for inference. And so I think, if you look at what we're building in the platform is this unification that allows us to have consistency across all of these different types of workloads, with the vision of don't need to move all of your data somewhere else to go do AI. Do AI right here on this core platform because it can handle disparate workloads running all at the same time and give you that great consistency, which enterprises are going to need in this new world of AI.
Yeah, it's data as a supply chain. Ed Rosemary on a couple weeks ago.
100%
that's one of his big thing is where we're transitioning from kind of these one-off, this array and this server covers this and that covers this. No. The new world is
it's gone now.
It's all together, and even you hit it up at the front where we're at a point where now with Fusion you can control and do things with file both on flash array and flash blade. You see where we're going with this this whole data supply chain thing and really abstracting. The hardware's still important. I know we have a lot of engineers, a lot of great folks work on the hardware and they do super cool things, but we're kind of abstracting that and just letting the storage administrators, again, become more strategists, become more what are you trying to serve for the business? And it's a really exciting place to be when you get to that.
It's cool too, because I think the cracks in that architectural approach that AI kind of surfaced really plays well into our first principles rethink of infrastructure. Yeah. And so as you start thinking about our build up towards data management and other cool capabilities, you start to see that we have a very unique, differentiated product to be able to actually build that unification and be able to deliver that consistency at the same time.
Yeah, and do it all with simplicity, which we'll we'll close on.
Cool.
Because again, that's the hallmark of everything that we do. And I know you talk to Cause all the time. I know that's still kind of the thing, or as Cause said, or as Andrew Miller always likes to say, come for the performance, stay for the simplicity.
Yes.
Right. I always love that kind of line. And the things that stand out are still what we do in Evergreen that make us enterprise ready.
Yeah.
But I would not ignore, and I added this in the outline, the fact that we went API first and API open a long time ago really serves us well now because we can connect into anything. And that's huge because enterprises want to go connect into, I don't know, open telemetry for doing observability or other tool sets that they have. And we're already there for them. And that's a huge enterprise ready factor.
I think what you're going to see in this evolution is going to get even better because right now, in Eng, we're Fusion first. Every feature comes out that's Fusion enabled. And so, our platform holistically will provide APIs for all of the capabilities that we're bringing customers into this new world on. Versus if you think about it, a lot of times, it's a lag behind all of the cool feature functionality gets added to the new cool stuff. And so we've made commitments to customers just to continue down that path and make sure we have APIs available for automation as well.
Yeah, and I think that's really the message we're going with this year is if you're not in Fusion yet, jump into it. Talk to your SE, talk to your SE team. If you're already using Pure, get to the right version of Purity.
Yep.
Use SSUs, right? That's another cool thing. But we want to encourage people to get there because then they're going to get to be a part of this next wave of data management that we see that's super exciting.
Oh
yeah. It's a super good time. And avoid forklift upgrades at all time. I put that in there.
Yes.
Remember the little slides we had that had the circle with the line around the forklift?
Maintenance extortion.
Yeah.
I was joking with some customer brought this up to me. He's like, "Oh my God, one of my favorite things was the I won't say the vendor's name, but a discount kit for a competitor that came with a Pure Storage mug and some like business cards that you'd leave on the table to get a discount." Which was just hilarious because I think the simplicity of our products have been really the main reason why we saw just a massive adoption early days. Evergreen became kind of this like experience of the longer term, right? Like it was like, oh my God, I never need to rebuy again. I always get new fresh gear. I always get innovation. It was like this awesome subscription to new feature functionality always. And so it's just so different than where they were before that it just changed people's minds altogether on what storage could be.
Well, and we're seeing more and more come to the light. It was an exciting year last year just to see some of the new logos that jumped in for the first time. We're seeing a number of accounts that expanded, right, their footprint, which is a big thrust right now for us is to, use Fusion and use PVRs and things like that as a way to show where we can drive more value for existing Pure investment. It's an exciting time.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. This is always a blast. Thank you.
I know. And it gives you a break again from all the, all the hardcore.
It's always fun to think back at all these like fun stories. And there's so much history here that it's always fun to recall.
We still got to get that series going where we have you tell some of those fun early stories. We just need to find the time
There's so many of them.
Find the time to sit down and to do that. Cool. Yeah. Anything else? Anything to plug? Yeah, probably not.
No. This thanks for having me. I love these. These are always fun to have a cool conversation.
Super easy.
Yeah.
Thanks. I've known you for years too. Like people that watch these go, how come the ones with you and Chadd are just so smooth and so easy? I'm like, I've just known them for so long. We spent so much time talking to each other. Awesome, man.
Sure.
Thanks for making time for it. Appreciate it. Thank you out there for making time for this edition of the Pure Report. I will get Chadd back in as soon as I can, maybe around Accelerate time frame. Please do go register purestorage.com/accelerate. We would love to see you in Las Vegas. We're working on building a great breakout program and, of course, main stage, special guests, great speakers, all that good stuff. And as always, tell a friend, tell a colleague, and we will keep the great guests like Chadd coming on to the program. And this will be a fun one to close for Everpure and Chadd Kenney. This is Rob Ludeman saying, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you.